What's up, government seekers? I finally got the thing. I got the cloth behind me, so we're not using the green screen, which takes up a lot of memory. And then we're back to using the better camera, which you can highlight the cut I have on my cut I got on my nose today. We'll just call it a surfing accident. But all right, but everybody like, share, subscribe. Good to see everybody in the chat. Holly Horn is our moderator. I don't know the Blaze Silver Wolf was here today. I think he's at a work thing. Hello, everybody. You're watching this on my YouTube and Lee Camp's YouTube. So if you're watching, make sure you subscribe to the other guy's YouTube. And we're also watching this on Rockfin. Thank you, everybody watching on Rockfin. Dove Seeks. I have been quite busy, so I've been a little late in releasing the audio podcast episode, but a bunch of are dropping today, tomorrow, Saturday. We'll be all caught up. So if you like listening to this on the audio side, I apologize for the delay in that, but I fell behind. Just been busy promoting my tour dates and the special. So if you haven't watched it, check out Manifest It. Let's get this going. Let's get this party started, everybody. Who's the other guy?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Government Secrets, episode 119, hosted by the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood.
Hey man, how goes it?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm going to tell myself that you got that wound on your face because you got a Brazilian and they went for the wrong end. That's what I'm believing. That's what I'm choosing to believe.
Yeah, and I was just so relaxed. I didn't pay attention. I was like, I wonder why they're putting this sticky stuff on my nose anyway. And then but actually, I do need to wax because if I don't, I will have a unibrow. I will have one thick, full eyebrow.
Really, I never saw you as a unibrow type.
Well, because I do a lot of work in here, friend, to make sure that doesn't happen.
A lot of work.
I gotta work on that guy all the time, which is gonna mean with this cut. In the time it takes for this to heal, they might a bridge might grow. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm gonna say lighter. Just hold a lighter real close. That should do it.
That seems like a great tactic. I think that's effective. That'll definitely work. I'm gonna play with the framing on this. I feel like I'm a little too tight, but I just got this.
But I can tell you finally got you finally have the ring light on your eyeballs. So that's
important. You can see the ring light on my eyeballs. What's up,
dude? You're not legit unless you have a ring light on your eyeballs.
You got a ring light on your eyeballs and a Brazilian wax on your nose. Those are the two things that make you pound for pound the best. So I think it sounds like today we've got two really fun, uplifting.
Always uplifting.
Always up. This show, if it's nothing, it's uplifting. That's what this show is. So I feel like mine's probably more horrific. So I should go first. Is that
not what we're saying? Sure. So yeah, sounds good to me.
Just because it's hard. I don't feel like there's going to be a lot of riffs going into mine, but you never know.
I do have a little toy here that makes a fart noise. Should I just use that every once in a while?
Yeah, periodically. Just bring that. Just have that on. We should just have some like animated wacky graphics that come in.
If you could do it with the filter that puts the cat nose on you, that might help. That might help a lot. Little cat ears.
Just talk about America's atrocities while we've got like cat ears and like Disney music playing, and then just some like animated character like pops up from behind me like, "Whoop, hey, Grub, how are you?" You know,
yeah. I think that would make it all go down easier.
Well, that's really what the point of this podcast is to make it go down easier for folks on how truly horrible. So I will Do we have graphics for this? I forget. Did we get?
So maybe did he share a Google Doc with you? Because all I got was a image that I can't actually make into a high res. Like I can't pull it up
I got the.
because it does not appear that a Google Doc was shared with me.
Oh, it's all three images together.
Right.
Right.
But
yeah, I
and,
don't know
and
that
if you zoom in, they get so blurry they're not useful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's fine. No big deal. All right. I will.
And this goes to show how well planned this show is. The fact that we realized this on air.
Another.
Like all the time on NBC News when they're like, pull up that video. Oh, you did you email it to me? I think
Was that today? We're doing that today.
Someone emailed. What was it? An attachment?
That's definitely how all the big shows don't know what they're doing right before they go live. I mean, I think that's why.
Yeah,
I think, Lee, that's the charm of this show, right? Isn't that what makes this show so wonderful? So we're going to talk about this was sent to me. We've talked a little bit about on this show. Actually, maybe I'll share the website. That'll be something that the folks can see. We talked a little bit on the show about the Korean War. We really haven't gone that much into it. There's a thing that happened that the United States, it's called the Jeju Massacre, and it's this island just off of South Korea. And I'll get into it.
I can already tell by the name that it's going to be upbeat.
Right. And what's critical here is we're going to hear some kind of our classic buzzwords as to why the United States was like letting this happen and like, I don't know that we full on did it, but we definitely, the United States was definitely like, oh, this couldn't, and this was
I feel like with 97% of every atrocity the U.S. was involved in, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't know if it's like we full on did it, but we were there. We were high-fiving some folks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we didn't try to stop it and we gave the evil side some arms or something, but I don't know. I mean, who's perfect, like.
We might have given a guy a gun and some money and some passports and some fake IDs and flew him there, but we didn't kill the dude.
So what's critical to this too is the wording. I'm going to show you this this article that's really trying to bring up a lot of the awful stuff that happened. This happened right before the Korean War started. So it was kind of a precursor to the Korean War, right? So just a quick history lesson, very brief. After World War II, the Japanese controlled Korea during World War II. So after World War II, China and the Soviets were kind of given control of the 38th parallel and up, and the United States was given control over the 38th, the South, which has become North and South Korea. So it sprung out of World War II in terms just the way we sort of divided up Germany, we divided up Berlin. So in Europe, we didn't want Germany to get back to power, and in Asia, we didn't want the Japanese to get back to power. And so I will put up this article. So this is what it was called: Early Cold War Genocide, the Jeju 4.3 Massacre, and U.S. Responsibility. The Jeju 4.3 incident occurred. It's one of the reasons. It's just happened April 3rd. During the administration of the United States military government in Korea, when the United States occupied the southern area of Korea below the 38th parallel. To put matters simply, the incident grew out of a shooting by Korean police of villagers who were participating in a March 1st, 1947 rally commemorating March 1st, 1919 nationwide. 6 people were killed. In response, on April 3rd, 1948, the Jeju branch of the South Korean Labor Party Is that any buzzers going off for you, Lee?
The Labor Party. Yeah.
So this
You know,
was
we always love that.
this was a labor march. This was we can't let the communists get together. So that's what started. That'll tip you off here. In opposition to U.S. plans for elections in the southern zone to form a separate government in the south, led an armed resistance against repression, by police and right-wing organizers. The resistance movement occurring in and around the area of, so this is the island right here. I'm gonna close it right there. So this is the Jeju Island, which is just off of so if you see this map here, see this red dot right there? That's Jeju Island. This white area, this is what is now South Korea. So this line, this demarcation line right there, that's the 38th parallel.
Graham, two point effects. One is thanks, Annabelle, for the donation. Another is that the map you're pointing to, our wonderful producer is apparently listening live and has sent in the images. And you can pull up the 38th parallel, I believe, right now.
Here we go. There we go.
And Jeju Island.
So there's Jeju Island, just to give people some context. So the yellow zone in the upper part of it, that's North Korea. And then I guess that would be orange in the south, that's South Korea. And then that's the island, Jeju Island, right? So as you're looking at that, let me go back to the article. The resistance movement occurring in and around the area of Mount Hala on Jeju Island lasted for 7 years and 7 months, finally ending on September 21st, 1954, with the lifting of the ban forbidding entry into the island. The Jeju 4.3 incident, or April 3rd incident, not only is of great importance within Korean modern history, but also holds global significance. During the Second World War, the United States, as I said, Soviet Union were allies, but after the war ended, their alliance was replaced by a Cold War that came to shape a new world order. So that's this is post-World War II, where now anything that was Soviet, we were against. This island was of strategic importance because it's in I believe that's the Sea of Japan. So in order to keep U.S. forces from the Japanese mainland during the Second World War, the Japanese government placed some 60,000 troops during World War II on Jeju Island. So everybody knew this was a significant stronghold. If Japan had further delayed its surrender to the United States, Jeju might well have paid a higher price, becoming a place of combat between Japanese and U.S. forces, as was the case in Okinawa, which was brutal. So let me go into this. The reason the Jeju April 3rd incident is of great significance to Koreans is the sheer number of casualties that resulted from the repression, second only to the number of lives lost during the Korean War. The investigation of the truth about Jeju determined the armed resistance forces numbered only 350. However, the number of lives lost to the repression was estimated to have reached somewhere between 25,000 to 30,000. The total represented 1/10 of the entire population of Jeju Island.
Jesus.
So imagine 10% of the island getting wiped out. At the same time, the report found that some 180 soldiers and 140 police were killed. So you're talking about roughly 350 soldiers and cops being killed versus the 25 to 30,000, mostly civilians that were killed. Of all who died, 90% were killed by soldiers and police. Children under the age of 10 were 5.8% of the casualties. Adults older than 61 were 6.1% of the casualties.
Why did you say there wouldn't be a lot of riffing during this one?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. I didn't. These kind of numbers just.
I've got a lot of bebopping and scatting to do right now.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So,
by the way, I think I have it up now. There's an image of inhabitants awaiting execution.
Oh, wow. I don't see it.
Oh, did I not present? Okay, 1 second. There it is.
So yeah, this is pretty brutal. And they were, the Korean Army and police force showed extreme brutality and cruelty beyond human imagination during their, quote, scorched earth strategy towards the Jeju population, which started in the middle of November 48 and lasted approximately 4 months. The great majority of deaths occurred during this annihilation operation. Soldiers laid siege to all mountain villages, set fire to every house, and slaughtered everyone in sight, regardless of age or gender. So, the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide, adopted by the United Nations in 1948, this was in violation of that, obviously. However, on Jeju Island, the basic principle of this law, as set forth by civilized society, was totally ignored. And since South Korea was in the control of the United States, who was in a position to stop this and did nothing? Take a guess.
Yeah, it seems like if the U.S. didn't want this to happen, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. The U.S. would have said, nope. The U.S. would have come in and just said, absolutely not. This is not happening. But they allowed it to happen. The responsibility, the illegal slaughter of unarmed citizens and the indiscriminate murder of children and the elderly was an egregious human rights violation. The responsibility for such heinous action lies with President Ri Syngman and the USA MGIK, which was the military force that was in charge of that whole region. President Ri was the top-ranking official of the South Korean Armed Forces and clearly bore responsibility for what happened. While some might question the culpability of the United States, I want to show why it is also responsible for the massacre of civilians. First of all, so the shooting incident on March 1st by the police, the indiscriminate arrests and torture that happened afterwards, and the April 3 armed uprising against police suppression. So just to be clear in the timeline here, there was a March 1st, 1919 was a significant significant date for Koreans. So they had a rally in support of that in March 1st of 47, and the police came in and did what cops do and were too overly aggressive, and a couple people died. So they were unhappy about this. So a little over a year later, they were having a protest in honor, kind of in honor, as I understand it, of what happened a year prior in 47, on April 3rd of 48. A lot of this April 3rd, 1948 was being organized by socialist and communist groups that were trying to, they didn't want the United States to come in and tell them how to run their elections, is what they were trying to do. So the April 3rd armed uprising against police suppression all happened during the period in which the USA administered the southern region of the Korean Peninsula, including Jeju Island. In addition, the U.S. officers directed the suppression plans in concert with the on-site Korean regimental commander in Jeju to ensure that the independent elections in the South scheduled for May 10 would be carried out successfully. So again, America putting in, you could, I don't know, maybe full-on puppet governments, or at the very least, like this Korean government.
Friendly governments. Yeah.
Very, very friendly.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford Koreans to go, you know what? We don't want America here. We don't want China here. We don't want Russia here. This is our country. We get to deal with it, and we will handle, we don't need any help.
This explains the American motto during those years was, we put the tears back in puppeteers.
Yeah.
I think that was.
That's exactly. Yeah. I think that was on MacArthur's slogan, right? Wasn't it his thing? So immediately after the government of the Republic of Korea was established, President Ri Syngman and U.S. Lieutenant General John Hodge of the USA signed an executive agreement concerning interim military and security matters during the transitional period. According to this agreement, even though the government of the Republic of Korea was established, the USA would continue to have operational control over both the army and police of the Republic of Korea as long as the US forces remained in Korea. So even by their own document, the United States was literally, they weren't just like, oh, bystanders. Whoops, how did this happen? They were literally still had operational control over the Korean military and police during this transition period. So again, more evidence that the United States could have easily said, no way, this isn't happening.
The U.S. wants operational control of the world.
Yeah. And I love this temporary thing they put in there. Just a quick 70 years of temporary. So, and this is, as this writer puts in there, this agreement was not a mere formality. According to a secret USA report, U.S. Brigadier General William Roberts sent a letter to the Republic of Korea, Minister of National Defense, on September 29, 1948, stating that operational control of the Korean constabulary still rests with the commanding general of the U.S. Armed Forces in Korea. So even after the fact, they're like, yeah, we still run this shit, in case anyone's wondering. But the U.S. military sent that secretly. So the U.S. military could still kind of go, oh, boy, we can't. It's all crazy after World War II.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that none of this was covered in American media at the time.
How did you know that? You don't remember that episode of MASH where they talked about this?
Hey, MASH was years later. That would have been quite an achievement if they even just covered it in MASH.
Right. No, but there was no movie tone news playing before, Westerns in the theaters going, the United States military single-handedly allowed the Republic of Korea to butcher its own citizens. Like they didn't do that. And then here comes a Western. They didn't.
Now enjoy Marilyn Monroe and some like it hot.
Yeah, just they cut to some John Wayne takes over Japan once again. Furthermore, a U.S. Army intelligence report dated November 27, 48, by U.S. General John B. Coulter commented that sufficient progress is delivered by the advisory committee under the supervision of the chief of the U.S. military committee, the members all stationed in Korea. Again, more evidence. Brigadier General Roberts took action to put martial law in effect on Jeju Island that was announced by Ryu without legal authority on November 17, 48. The Korean officers hesitated to take action until Roberts authorized it in communications with the Republic of Korea Chief of Staff and the Ministry of National Defense on December 1st, 1948. It was under the decree of martial law that the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians was carried out and mountain villages were set on fire by Korean soldiers. So the April 3rd is when the event started, but then as I said earlier, that was like 4 or 5 months of just indiscriminate slaughtering. And the United States, in a memo, as I just read, was like, yeah, keep it going, do this. So the U.S. can't even say, oh, we didn't know, or we weren't paying attention. They were a part of it. They sanctioned it. They said, this is totally okay. Go for it.
Wow.
Roberts lauded his action as highly successful and requested that Korean soldiers involved be recognized and praised widely in speeches by President Rhee and other government officials. According to the American account of the massacre that happened in one village, on February 20th, 1949, a delayed report indicates that 76 rebels from Do-do-ri were executed by the Min Bo-dan People's Protective Corps, who used spears in the performance of these executions. And National Police and Korean Army Military Police supervised the operation. And 4 members of the Korean Military Advisory Group, which is the United States, witnessed by chance the execution of 38 of the rebels and counted 38 already dead when they arrived. While it is, this author says, while it is true, those advisors that witnessed couldn't do anything about the 38 people already executed, at the very least, they could have stopped the second 38 people from being executed, and of course did nothing.
Right.
Another U.S. intelligence report states the Ninth wages reasonably successful warfare against the rebels, but simultaneously they stamp out all resistance. It adopted a program of mass slaughter among civilians in the hill villages, allowed on the premise that the people all were furnishing aid and comfort to guerrilla troops. It is also important to consider the timing of the Scorched campaign. For example, why did the U.S. Army urge the Republican Korean Army to carry out the Scorched strategy starting in November 48 and for approximately 4 months? In order to get to the bottom of that matter, it is necessary to examine both the political situation on the Korean Peninsula and, as interesting, the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. So once again, America was just allowing atrocities to happen to fuel some greater chess match with the Soviet Union. Like, we're okay with this.
And this fits perfectly with what we did in Korea. You and I have covered. Well, I don't know if maybe we just covered the extensive bombing in Vietnam. I don't know how much we got to Korea, but in Korea we killed a third of their population of North Korea. Like a third. Imagine in a war, a third of the population being dead. So much so that one of our top generals, I remember he was quoted as saying, like, there's nothing left to strike. Like, we don't know what to drop bombs on because everything's gone, but we're still dropping bombs. And so it was just pure obliteration in North Korea.
Not only, I mean, it's called the Forgotten War for numerous reasons.
Which war was that?
The Korean War.
That was a joke.
I was like, how is he forgetting the Forgotten War? This doesn't make any sense. What is Lee Camp doing? Sorry, I'm still dizzy from the surfboard thing, so I can't get all the jokes. But yeah, it's not only it's also the Forgotten War of let's forget some of America's atrocities, because we were still we're the good guys after World War II glow, and we didn't want to like tarnish that with yeah. So
no.
There was a brief timeline of events. April 8th, the U.S. president approved to withdraw the U.S. armed forces by the end of December 48. September 15, 48, the U.S. armed forces began to withdraw secretly. September 19, 48, the Soviet Union announced that it would withdraw its armed forces from North Korea by the end of the year. November 12th, John J. McCusker, the U.S. Special Envoy, called for postponing the withdrawal of the U.S. Army, arguing that South Korea was experiencing great instability because of the rebellion.
It's a rebellion. It's not a massacre. It's a rebellion.
That's a rebellion.
Yeah.
So the UN General Assembly recognized the Republic of Korea as a nation and called for an immediate withdrawal of armed forces by the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Then December 17th, 48, the U.S. State Department asked for reconsideration and wanted to keep the troops there a little bit longer, which then a week later, the Soviet Union announced that it had completely withdrawn its armed forces from North Korea. March 23rd, 1949, U.S. President approved NSC 8.2, which called for postponing the withdrawal. So again, Soviet Union pulls out per the terms of the UN that America is supposed to agree to as well. We don't pull out our troops.
We have a long, proud history of just not doing the thing
Right.
we signed off on.
Right. And then saying, oh, the crazy Soviets are stirring up trouble in Korea. Really? They pulled out. We could have pulled out and just let Korea govern itself.
One of my favorite recent ones is the Iran nuclear deal, where we pull out and then we go, how dare Iran not abide by the nuclear deal?
And now
it's
China
like
broke
you just ripped it up. Like you just ripped it up.
You guys literally, you shit on the agreement on the floor of the UN, and then you got drunk and then started chanted USA, USA. So how are you blaming this on Iran? But it's totally true. It's like that. And then it's like just what happened with Saudi Arabia brokering, or China brokering peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And now America is like, China's causing problems. Really? They're brokering peace. Now they're talking about bringing peace to Yemen. China could be responsible for ending this horrific genocide in Yemen that we helped start.
And supported all the way through. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obama, Trump, and now Biden. It just keeps, the audacity of America is number one. Nobody has the audacity of America. Nobody has the just rampant gall. So this then what this is also talking about. I won't go anymore because it just goes in. It leads into then the.
Graham, we've got the abuse of other Asian peoples to get to.
Oh, I know. Let me just say this. I just want to read this real quick. We got another awful America abusing Asians thing. Let me just read then. That was the article from this Korean journalist who's holding the United States and the South Korean the Republic of Korea's army accountable. Let me read you how it's described in Wikipedia.
Oh, Lord.
The Jeju Uprising. So we're just going to get rid of massacre. And the Jeju Uprising, known in South Korea as the Jeju Incident. Wow. Really? Oh, man. I think, 9/11 was sort of an elevator problem, wasn't it? This is, again, goes into this. So this is this will give you this is where Wikipedia kind of always reveals itself. We talk about Wikipedia a lot on the show. We always reference Wikipedia, not because we think they're great, but to show you how they sort of weigh in. So here's what led up to it. Another thing that led up to it, that the other author, I don't think deliberately didn't go into this, but Wikipedia did. A general strike was later organized by the Workers' Party of South Korea from February to March of 1948. So the Workers' Party of South Korea helped launch the insurgency in April 48. They're calling that the insurgency. Again, they were protesting that a year prior, some people got shot at a rally. And that the insurgents, this is going to shock you, they attacked the police, Lee, and then the police had no choice.
There's no choice. Yeah.
Right. So and even on this Wikipedia is like it was notable for its extreme violence. Between 14,000 and 30,000 people were killed and 40,000 fled to Japan. Atrocities and war crimes were committed by both sides. Really?
Yeah. Between 15 and what they say, between 15 and whatever 1,000 people. I feel like most of them were on one side. The deaths.
Yeah. When 25 to 30,000 people on one side all get slaughtered, it feels a little lopsided to me. It's like
it sounds a lot like how a lot of the mainstream media will cover Israel Palestine.
Yeah. Oh, that's a total Israel-Palestine thing. It's like, hey, both sides are wrong.
Or 15 people died. There were injuries and on both sides or whatever. And you're like, all 15 were Palestinians.
All 15 were Palestinians.
One IDF guy got hit in the shin with a rock.
Yeah, because he went in and just blew up a temple during Ramadan or whatever. It's like, they're doing, it's the same type of language. So that's the Jeju Massacre and the United States involvement in that, which is, of course, a government secret that I just learned about a couple days ago when someone sent this to me. So,
yeah.
Now,
segment number 2: How America Built the Railroads Through Freedom and Democracy.
So, yes, now we have mentioned this in previous episodes. We may have even talked a little bit about the building of the transcontinental railroad across the U.S., but we haven't gone deeply into the Chinese Americans who were pivotal in building this.
Just to give people, if they're new to the show and want to go back, I forget the episode numbers, but we did on the anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad. We went into the history, the government secret of the big evil corporations that screwed a bunch of people over in Canada and the United States to make that to connect that. But we did not cover the other awfulness of treating the Chinese like slaves.
Right. So believe it or not, mostly what I'm going to be reading from is it's an NBC News article. And, this is, I feel like, reliably, NBC News does get it right roughly 150 years after the event. So
Look,
nailed it.
Everybody needs a century and a half to kind of sort through the documents.
Sort through the back and forth and the hibbity-jibbity. Yeah.
I mean, the handwriting back then was kind of crazy, and there wasn't computers, and so it was kind of hard to figure it out.
So, but it starts with a really interesting kind of anecdotal thing. So I'm going to go ahead and tell people that May 10th, 1969 marked the 100 years. We just passed the 150 years, but in 69 marked the 100 years since the golden spike was hammered in Promontory. I don't know how to pronounce that, Utah. If anybody's been to Promontory, then tell me how to pronounce it. Signifying the completion of America's first transcontinental railroad. That's where the two sides connected. So it completed in the middle of the country a little bit, not at the end.
And I think it was probably last May 10th is when we did this. There's the famous photo of people on both sides, and they're all driving the last stake in or whatever.
Right. A monumental engineering feat that linked together the nation's coast. A ceremony commemorating the anniversary drew a crowd of around 20,000 people came out for that because in 1969 there was very little to do. So among the attendees was Philip Choi, president of the San Francisco-based Chinese Historical Society of America, and Thomas Chin, one of its founders. Centennial officials, the officials putting on the event, had agreed to set aside 5 minutes of the ceremony, which I'm sure was, an hour or hours long, 5 minutes for the society to pay homage to the Chinese workers who had helped build the railroad, but whose contributions had been largely glossed over in the history books. Choi, Chin, and others gathered there that day and hoped that moment would be the moment that 10,000 Chinese who labored for the Central Pacific Railroad finally would get their due. Their due and their recognition.
So it's a bunch of rich white guys patting themselves on the back, giving themselves, my great grandfather did this, and here's a plaque I'm going to give myself, and we're going to name it.
And now for I think 5 minutes, here's Chinny Chin Choi. I don't know how to say his name, but he's going to come up and tell you about the Chinaman.
Yeah, it was something awful like that. They're going to give a couple Orientals helped out. Anyway, moving on,
But it's actually worse than that, Graham.
Oh.
Here's the speech from that day at the event from Transportation Secretary John A. Volpe, I guess it's pronounced.
Oh, how could it be? We were deliberately being awful offensive. And you're going to tell me the non-sarcastic comedian version of awful and is going to be the actual is worse. Okay.
In a certain way, it's worse. Yes. Maybe less outwardly racist, but in a way it's worse. So the transportation secretary gave his speech in which he said, who else but Americans could drill 10 tunnels in mountains 30 feet deep in snow? Who else but Americans could chisel through miles of solid granite? Who else but Americans could have laid 10 miles of track in 12 hours? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Largely not Americans.
Yeah. Who else but Americans could hire immigrant slave labor and pay them nothing, let them die to make this thing, and then take credit for their labor? Who else but Americans could do that?
Yeah. Who else but Americans could take credit where others have worked? Exactly.
And died. Died.
So Volpe's remarks reference some of the backbreaking and deadly work done on the Central Pacific by a labor force that by the end of the railroad, by the end of the time it was being built, was the labor force was 90% Chinese. Many of them migrants from China, ineligible to become U.S. citizens under federal law.
Right. That was I forget what it's called, but it was literally called
the Chinese Exclusion Act.
The Chinese Exclusion Act. Literally, we had a law in the book saying Chinese people could not be American citizens.
Yes. But the ceremony featured nothing more than a passing mention of the Chinese, and the 5 minutes promised to the Historical Society never happened.
Oh, they didn't even get it. They didn't even get the insulting 5 minutes.
Nope.
Oh, Oh
Didn't
my
even get
God.
the 5 minutes.
Oh,
I want to know
Oh my-
what that explanation was like backstage. So the baton twirler went a little long. We're gonna have to cut you. We don't. Yeah.
the trophy that the one white guy was giving to the other white guy, it was heavy. It took a lot of time and space to get it on stage.
It actually took 7 Chinamen to lift it up there. So
So we don't have time. It'd be too much to move it back off the stage. So we're just gonna leave it on stage, and then everyone's gonna take photos in front of it. So there's no time for you guys to do your whatever speech about blah
but
blah.
we are gonna do this after we've finished and shut off the mic and taken down the stage. You're welcome to say whatever you'd like.
When everybody's gone, you
When
guys can.
everybody's gone,
You have
you
the
can
floor is yours. I mean,
just-
literally.
The field is yours.
Oh my God.
The stage is yours. I mean, there won't be a stage anymore, but the field is yours.
Sure. The open area by this railroad track, which you're going to need to clear out because the train's coming by soon. But anyway, you guys can do whatever you want. And thank you for your free service. It's just like, thank you for
service.
Oh,
So actually, if I can show this photo, I don't have it in a large version, but so this is maybe this might be the photo we showed last time, but this is
Right.
them at the key moment where the two train tracks united. And initially it was thought that there are no Chinese people in this entire photograph, but now some researchers have said they've been able to discover 2 Chinese people
just hidden in the back. So
hidden in the back.
90% of the labor to build the railroads was Chinese towards the end. Tens of thousands did this. Who knows how many died? And we're going to put 2 in the photo.
Yeah.
And 100 years later, you don't even get your 5 minutes.
You don't get your 5 minutes. And we're going to get to how many died. You're right that they don't know. They just have like no records of anything like that, because back then you could, in building a transcontinental railroad, you could kill people and not even write it down.
Yep.
So,
Didn't matter.
The Central Pacific broke ground on the first transcontinental railroad in 1863 and built east from Sacramento. The Union Pacific pushed west from Council Bluffs, Iowa, where they started because other rail lines got them that far. The first transcontinental railroad became a boon to the economy for a nation recovering from civil war, shaving significant travel time across the continent from several months to about a week. It also generated tremendous wealth for railroad tycoons, such as Leland Stanford. I feel like we should do an episode on him, a former California governor who ran under an anti-Chinese immigrant platform. Stanford also served as president of the Central Pacific Railroad and later established the university that bears his name.
Oh, that's a whole other government.
Do they admit Asians to Stanford? Or?
Yeah, I think they do now.
To grow its workforce, the Central Pacific took out an advertisement in 1865 seeking 5,000 railroad laborers, but only a few hundred whites responded. Isn't that rough when you put out an ad and not enough whites show up?
Oh, man. Now we're going to have to take these people that we've legally said can't be citizens, and we're literally legally now they can do anything. That's probably, I'm sure that had to do something with the Chinese Exclusion Act. Was, some of these Stanford, railroad baron guys said, make it so they're not citizens. Then if they die and we pay them nothing, who cares? I'm sure that was part of that law. It wasn't just good old racism, but also greed and capitalism. Which racism always weaves really quite well into greed and capitalism. Just it's hand in glove.
This might be the first time we've mentioned greed and capitalism on this show, I think.
I feel like we haven't talked about it enough. I don't know. It's not like it's come up every episode since episode 1, because we can tie greed, capitalism into every one of these government. Every single one of them at its core has some we'll get money from this. We'll do this awful thing and it'll give us power over the Soviets so that we can sell more Levi's or whatever.
But you have to admit, we have some killer Levi's.
Our jeans are sweet, dude. Our jeans are sweet.
Sweet.
I mean, nothing shows off my ass better than a pair of Levi's. You know what I mean?
You can pull up the other photo I just put up there.
Oh, I thought you had a photo of me in tight jeans. I'm sorry. Let me get this.
No, that's in my wallet, Graham. That's Graham in tight jeans.
You're just out to dinner with your wife. What's that
Didn't-
photo? Oh, it's just Graham in some really tight jeans. It's awesome. It's just
Didn't
great.
because we joked about it, didn't someone make an image of you like on the horse with Putin or something?
Yes, there's that picture of Putin without his shirt on riding a horse. Somebody put me without my shirt on the same horse. I'm on the back. And I think there's a photo of me online without my shirt on. So they just cut so literally I have no legs. So I'm like a centaur with Putin riding me or something like that. It's gorgeous. And that also, I'm assuming, is in your wallet.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually there's nothing in my wallet but photos of you. That's it. It's just a wallet for that. I actually have my credit card somewhere else entirely.
You keep those in your boots, but your wallet, you just have a Graham wallet, the photo wallet.
The wallet got too big, and so I had to remove the money and the cards.
You can't take out the photos. You got to put the cards elsewhere. I get it. I get it.
So then the article continues that many of the whites who did take the jobs did so for only a time, reluctant to shoulder the demanding and hazardous work expected of them. Facing a labor shortage, the railroad may have turned to the railroad then turned to recruiting Chinese, but the plan hit opposition amid anti-Chinese sentiment. Some of the quotes from so some of these like railroad barons and stuff didn't think Chinese were strong enough. They didn't think whites would labor alongside Chinese. Some of them even said that Chinese lack the brain power to work as a railroad worker.
Oh. And of course, the white people were like, "This is hard," and quit. And
and I'm sure the Chinese people were like, "Dude, our civilization is like fucking tens of thousands of years old."
Yeah, we've been building this shit for 1,000 years. Like, while you guys were, fucking drinking your own urine, we were like doing math. So let's just move out of the way and we'll get the railroads done for you.
So, but the experiment went very well, where they hired some Chinese people, and it turns out, wow, they were hard workers. They were smart. They knew what they were doing. Also, it turns out you can pay them less.
Gee, it's not. I don't know. Is this still happening today, where they're just outworking the world? And
I thought most immigrants, especially undocumented in this country, get paid really like 100,000 a year, right?
Yeah, undocumented always at least minimum 80 grand minimum, health benefits. Their kids get to go to college for free, totally. But even like, while America's sitting there just trying to sanction and send war all over the world, China, since it's become in 30 years, right, when China has decided to like embrace more free market capitalism, right? China is just literally kicking our ass in their production, their work ethic. Like, it's just, and this has been going on for centuries, where they're just, there's a documentary on Netflix where this Chinese company opens up a factory in like Arkansas or something like that, where in the south or middle of the country. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to give Americans jobs. And it's a pretty cool documentary. It's showing like the two cultures, how they're kind of not, but part of it is the Chinese people are like, "Oh, these Americans don't work hard. They just like, they don't work. You guys don't work hard enough. You're lazy. You don't do it." Like, it's literally, there's like, "You don't work hard enough." And the Americans are like, "Argh." And they're like, and most Chinese people are pretty blunt, and they're like, this one guy was like, he was a heavy set guy. And the boss or the manager in the documentary is like, "You're too fat. Your hands are too fat to work the machine. Like, you got to lose weight. You're too fat." Like, it was just like,
well, I will say that I don't think anyone should have to work hard nowadays. But
no,
we if we use technology appropriately and the gains were given to the people rather than to the top, you could have, you could work 2 days a week and make the same living or something. But of course,
we could live in a utopia. We could live in a utopia where just people have time to take their kids and go to school and learn, and everyone's taking an art class, and no one's fighting in the streets, and everyone's just getting along, and it's fantastic.
People following their passion rather than convincing themselves their passion is folding shirts at Banana Republic.
Right.
Yeah.
And just spending what little extra money they have on whatever little small joy they can get at, like, go to some nightclub or go see a sporting event or go to the movies where the sodas are like, I just went to the movies. The sodas were $7. It was $7 to get a soda at the AMC. It's free refills, but I'm like, well, I gotta bring a gallon jug and just fill this thing up and then take it home with me to justify this
Dude,
cost.
this may be how out of it I am. I don't go to a lot of concerts these days. I don't have enough time, but I went to a concert at Barclays Center just like a year ago or something, and I even prepared myself. I was buying 2 beers, one for me, one for my friend. I even prepared myself for like, oh, it's gonna be like $28 or something for 2 beers. It was, I think, around 45.
For 2 beers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I know. I just went to a Clippers game and I went and I think I got like a veggie burger, fries, and a water. And it was $28 or $30. And I
And
was
they were
like,
like, the water's 23 of it. Dude, it's insanity. Anyway, that's a side note. I don't know if that's a government secret. That's very much not a secret. It's
not a
just
secret.
fucking miserable.
yeah, life in America is horrible. And in LA, like the stress level, people are fucking yelling and fighting in traffic, and I just flipping each other off. I mean, it's just like, and I think it's not just a sort of standard big city pace of things. I definitely can sense it since COVID. Because the inflation's gone up, money is tighter, jobs are harder. The gas price isn't at $6 like it was a year or so ago, but it's still $4.50, $4.60 a gallon in California. I mean, the inflation is through the roof. Every restaurant I've been to is more expensive. Like just getting
restaurants are getting crazy. Yeah.
It's we talked about it. There's a burrito joint, baby. It's $11 for a vegetarian burrito, $11 for a burrito. Like
but they punch you in the balls for free though.
Ball punches there's a tax on it now. It's $1 a ball. So it's $2 balls.
All right.
I'm sorry. I don't even know what we were talking about.
I don't know what we're talking about either, but I better get moving. It's going to be a 2-hour episode. The success of the experiment led Central Pacific to hire additional Chinese workers, but the Chinese labor pool in California soon ran out. So the company arranged with labor contractors to bring workers directly from China, mostly from Guangdong province in the south. By the end of 1865, boatloads of Chinese were arriving in San Francisco. Less than 2 years later, almost 90% of the Central Pacific workforce was Chinese. The rest were of European American descent, mostly Irish. At its highest point, between 10,000 and 15,000 Chinese were working on the Central Pacific, with perhaps as many as 20,000 in total over time. The Union Pacific, by contrast, did not have Chinese laborers. They used mainly Irish. Irish and Italian, which back then was equally hated, I guess.
Yeah, they were equally. Those two groups were hated. Those two groups were not treated well, but those two groups could become citizens. There wasn't a law. I mean, the Irish in certain cities on the East Coast, there were signs that said Irish need not apply, and they got shunned more than other groups from Europe because England controlled Ireland for 700 years and treated them like rats. But they still ultimately were able to get a little taste of the American dream because they could become citizens. There wasn't a federal law saying the Irish Exclusion Act. Like
right. So the Chinese were said to take the most dangerous jobs, the most exhausting assignments, and for less pay and worse treatment than the Euro-American counterparts, often toiling in extreme weather. They cleared obstructions, moved earth, bored tunnels, built retaining walls. They became experts in, so many areas. Sometimes they were lowered off cliffs. This is how insane building those railroads was. I mean, if you ever travel west, from the middle of the country to California, and the number of mountains you have to go over, and imagine in 1860s how exactly you would build a railroad through that. Sometimes they were lowered off cliffs to plant explosive charges when blasting was necessary, knowing, and this is lowered off cliffs, not, they didn't have carabiners yet.
Yeah,
had,
I don't.
it was just a rope tied around your waist.
Oh, let's hope that rock doesn't give out.
And so they would, and then once they lit the fuse, which the fuse, I think they were like 30 seconds long or something. Once they lit the fuse, the difference between life and death hinged on how fast they were pulled back up by the rest of the team.
Jesus. Like, it's like, again, many of the Irish, when they came off the boat during the Civil War, they were just like, join the army, fight in the Civil War, you automatically become a citizen. They were like, okay. So they were making them just go fight in wars, but they were giving them citizenship. Now imagine there's boats of going to this province in China, bringing people saying you want to work for the railroads, but you can't be a citizen. So
yeah,
you can work. We're going to hang you off of cliffs.
But although I imagine many of them may have been told they would become a citizen.
Yeah, maybe they were lied to,
and then later found out. Yeah. But there were also occasions where avalanches buried workers in the snow and they weren't found until the snow melted the following spring. Since records of workers' death weren't kept, Stanford scholars don't know precisely how many Chinese died building the railroad. The estimate is in the hundreds, possibly more like 1,000. However, the Chinese were harder workers in many ways and also rather smart. And one thing that made them better workers is that they often drank boiled tea or boiled water rather than drinking straight out of streams and things. And so this meant that while everyone else was getting like dysentery and stuff, they were okay. So the big problem was all the whites had the shits.
They're just drinking hillbilly water while the Chinese are like, if you boil it, you can actually, it's not, won't kill you. Because again, they've had a 3,000-year-old society or whatever, so they've learned this.
Right. They even staged a strike in 1867, demanding pay equal to whites, shorter workdays, and better working conditions, an action that helped counter the image that Chinese were docile and wouldn't fight for their rights. Unfortunately, though, they actually lost the strike because the railroad cut off like their food supplies until they went back to work or something. So, but it was bold of them to strike in the first place. From tunneling through solid granite to laying down 10 miles of track in a day, the Chinese workers proved their mettle time and again. And even Leland Stanford the Fifth, or whatever, whose anti-Chinese views were central to his gubernatorial campaign, changed his tune and became friends with Chinese people. He became one of the wealthiest men in the world because of their labor. But there's also a lot of evidence to show that the Stanfords had affection for some Chinese. After I don't know. I feel like you'd have to read deeply into what Stanford actually believed, because he also liked some Chinese. It's kind of like the "I have a black friend" excuse.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Thomas Jefferson had sex with some of the hot slaves, so he wasn't a monster,
because he viewed the slaves as hot.
Yeah.
He liked the slaves so much, he made love to some of them.
Yeah. So he was an evil.
After that railroad, Chinese laborers fanned out across the U.S. and worked on 71 other rail lines. So it wasn't just the transcontinental. There was rising anti-Chinese sentiment, though, and violence. Does that sound familiar? And whites blamed the Chinese for squeezing them out of jobs. Does that sound familiar? Owing to white hostility, tens of thousands of Chinese were forced to leave the U.S. by 1882. That same year, Congress responded by passing the Chinese Exclusion Act, the only major federal law to explicitly suspend immigration for a specific nationality.
So let's see if I got this right. They bring the Chinese here. Well, first of all, the white people were offered the jobs. Most of them didn't want to do it because it was too hard. The Chinese outwork them. They get paid less money. More of them die as a result. And then this makes white people angry that the Chinese people are stealing their jobs because they work harder and they boil their water because they don't drink toilet water like idiots.
Well, the white people were upset that the Chinese didn't have to shit as much.
So these constipated fat white people that couldn't work hard were mad.
No, the dysentery white people. You have it
But
backwards.
Oh, the overly skinny dysentery white people
Yes.
couldn't work hard because they were lazy and they'd been shitting too much because they kept eating dirty water like dogs. And they were mad that these people, I mean, this is like unbelievable, man. Like they beat you. You brought them here to treated them like slaves and they out hustled you and now you're mad. Like,
yeah. I mean, it sounds like us, doesn't it?
pretty much.
So that's what I got. I mean, now they're trying to remedy the fact that the Chinese have been left out of all the history books. In 2014, the U.S. Department of Labor inducted Chinese railroad workers into the Hall of Honor, which I love. I mean,
what's that?
I love the idea of a Hall of Honor for like laboring in American capitalism. Like you beat yourself to death in this system, you win. But of course, these people are it's economic force to do these things.
Right. We're gonna put all your names on a plaque because a handful of rich guys became billionaires thanks to you. So here's what you get. You get your name carved over on a door somewhere. Wow. Thanks, capitalism. I appreciate it. Well, it's another fantastic government secret. Oh,
this
man.
was more upbeat than usual.
It was very more upbeat. I mean, it's again, if you have anybody watching or listening to this, first of all, like it, share it, go to our Patreon. We're going to go there in a couple minutes, patreon.com/government secrets, where we'll do a This Week in Government Secrets. And if you're not watching this live, you can join Patreon and there's like 29 of them, I believe, bonus government secrets that you get on the Patreon level. So you can just get that and watch it whenever you want. And, and if you have any friends or family that still think America's awesome, just have them start watching or listening to this show.
Do you want to tease anything we're covering on about Patreon?
We're going to talk, well, we do This Week in Government Secrets. So let me I'll just give you a little smidgen. It's always kind of, I could have actually used the whole Korean War segment, but it's going to be something fun. It's going to be
okay.
I don't want to tease it too much, Lee, because I like people wondering what great thing did America do this week of April, whatever, fill in the date.
Fair enough. All right, folks, we will see you over there. All my stuff's at leecamp.net. I have regular live streams, other videos, interviews, leecamp.net.
Yes, and go my special Manifest It and my tour dates are all at grahamelwood.com. I'm in Maui April 27th, Kona on the Big Island April 28th, and the Honolulu April 29th. And I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, May 11th, and Tucson, Arizona, May 12th. Please get tickets. Go to grahamelwood.com. Also, we're doing the Anything Can Happen live game show. It's a live streaming event in front of a studio audience. You can get that at grahamelwood.com as well. And that is April 22nd at 7:30 Pacific time. So you can watch it anywhere in the world. Thanks for listening and watching to
Government Secrets, episode 119, How America Was Great to Koreans and the Chinese.
See you in a minute.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you over at Patreon. Go join us at Patreon right now. Thank you.